Welcome back. Today we will learn about the explosive revelations that are about to rock Salem to its very core as the shocking truth about who shot E.J. DiMera finally begins to unravel in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. The DiMera mansion, that palatial fortress of secrets and lies, has become the epicenter of a devastating memory breakthrough that threatens to destroy multiple lives. In a moment that will leave viewers gasping, E.J. DiMera experiences a sudden and overwhelming flashback to that fateful night when his life nearly ended in a hail of gunfire. The memory comes crashing back like a tidal wave, crystal clear and undeniable. It was Rachel Black, the innocent-looking child who has been living under his own roof, who pulled that trigger and sent him spiraling toward death's door. This earth-shattering revelation doesn't occur in isolation, however. The brilliant psychiatrist Marlena Evans, with her decades of experience reading people's souls, immediately recognizes the shift in E.J.'s demeanor and the horror dawning across his features. Her trained eye catches every micro-expression, every subtle change that indicates E.J. has finally pierced through the fog of his traumatic amnesia to uncover the devastating truth about his young niece's murderous actions. The weight of this knowledge settles between them like a poisonous cloud, heavy with implications that could tear the DiMera family apart at its very foundations. The private conversation that follows between E.J. and Marlena becomes a crucial turning point in this twisted saga. Marlena, ever the professional, carefully weighs every aspect of this nightmarish situation while E.J. grapples with the impossible choice before him. On one hand, his paternal instincts scream at him to protect Rachel, this troubled child who has already endured so much trauma in her young life. But on the other hand, his son Johnny DiMera sits behind bars, facing the very real possibility of spending decades in prison for a crime he didn't commit. The moral complexity of the situation threatens to tear E.J.'s already fractured psyche into irreparable pieces. The stakes couldn't be higher for E.J. as he contemplates his next move with the precision of a chess grandmaster. Johnny's freedom hangs in the balance like a sword of Damocles, and every passing hour brings him closer to a life sentence for attempted murder. E.J. knows that his silence is tantamount to signing his son's death warrant, condemning an innocent man to rot away in a prison cell while the real perpetrator continues to live free. The weight of this responsibility crushes down on E.J.'s shoulders like an avalanche, threatening to bury him under an avalanche of guilt and regret. As Wednesday's episode unfolds, E.J. steels himself for what may be the most difficult decision of his entire tumultuous life. He prepares to step forward and confess everything he remembers about that horrific night. This confession won't just be a simple statement to police, it will be a nuclear bomb detonated in the heart of Salem society, obliterating the carefully constructed facade of normalcy that the DiMera family has worked so hard to maintain. E.J. understands that revealing Rachel as the shooter will likely destroy any chance of the little girl having a normal childhood, but he simply cannot allow his own flesh and blood to suffer for her crimes. Meanwhile, Kristen DiMera finds herself caught in an increasingly tangled web of evidence and suspicion that threatens to expose her daughter's darkest secret. The protective mother's intuition kicks into overdrive as she begins to notice disturbing patterns and inconsistencies that all point toward one horrifying conclusion: Rachel was indeed the one who nearly murdered her uncle in cold blood. Kristen's maternal instincts war with her sense of justice as she realizes that the child she has raised and nurtured is capable of violence that would shock even the most hardened criminals. The evidence against Rachel becomes increasingly impossible for Kristen to ignore, no matter how desperately she wants to believe in her daughter's innocence. Perhaps it's a small detail that Rachel mentioned about that night, or maybe it's the way the child's demeanor changes whenever the shooting is discussed. Whatever triggers this realization, Kristen finds herself staring into an abyss of maternal horror as she contemplates the unthinkable truth about her beloved daughter. The revelation threatens to shatter everything Kristen thought she knew about Rachel and their relationship. Kristen's discovery sets in motion a desperate race against time as she realizes that E.J.'s recovered memory puts Rachel in immediate and extreme danger. The fiercely protective mother understands that once E.J. reveals what he remembers, the Salem Police Department will have no choice but to arrest Rachel and charge her with attempted murder. The thought of her precious daughter being dragged away in handcuffs and thrown into the juvenile justice system sends Kristen into a panic that borders on complete mental breakdown. Spoilers tease that Kristen will pull out every stop in her arsenal to prevent EJ from coming forward with his devastating testimony. This isn't just about protecting Rachel from legal consequences, it's about preserving what's left of the child's psychological well-being and preventing her from being labeled as a violent criminal for the rest of her life. Kristen knows better than anyone how the justice system treats children who commit serious crimes, and she refuses to allow Rachel to become another tragic statistic in the juvenile detention system. The lengths to which Kristen is willing to go to protect her daughter may shock even longtime Days of Our Lives viewers who thought they had seen everything. Speculation runs rampant that Kristen might resort to blackmail, bribery, or even more extreme measures to silence EJ and keep Rachel's secret buried forever. Some sources suggest that Kristen may even consider taking the ultimate step, confessing to the shooting herself to deflect attention away from Rachel. This potential self-sacrifice would represent the pinnacle of maternal love, with Kristen willing to throw away her own freedom to ensure her daughter's safety. The psychological impact of this crisis on Rachel herself adds another layer of complexity to an already impossibly tangled situation. The young girl has been carrying the weight of this terrible secret, watching helplessly as Johnny faces prosecution for her crime. The guilt and trauma of what she did, combined with the fear of being discovered, has likely been eating away at Rachel's mental state for weeks or even months. Child psychologists would undoubtedly argue that the stress of keeping such a monumental secret could cause lasting psychological damage to someone so young and vulnerable. If Kristen does decide to take responsibility for the shooting, it would create a domino effect of consequences that would reverberate throughout Salem for years to come. Rachel would have to live with the knowledge that her mother sacrificed everything to protect her, adding another layer of guilt and psychological trauma to an already fragile psyche. Meanwhile, the real truth would remain buried, creating a foundation of lies that could eventually crumble and destroy what's left of the DiMera family unity. The timing of these revelations couldn't be more critical, as Johnny's trial reaches its climactic conclusion and his fate hangs in the balance. Every hour that passes without the truth coming to light brings Johnny closer to a wrongful conviction that would destroy his life and tear the DiMera family apart. The pressure cooker atmosphere in Salem threatens to explode as multiple family members grapple with impossible moral choices and devastating consequences. As this incredible storyline reaches its boiling point, viewers can expect explosive confrontations, heart-wrenching family drama, and shocking twists that will leave everyone questioning everything they thought they knew about the DiMera clan. The revelation of Rachel as EJ's shooter represents more than just a plot twist. It's a fundamental shift in the show's dynamics that will have lasting repercussions for every character involved. The emotional fallout from this crisis will likely provide storyline material for months to come, as the DiMera family struggles to heal from wounds that may prove impossible to mend. Next, Sherry Jimenez's dream for Gabby. Could Salem's fiercest woman find her super couple match? When actress Sherry Jimenez first stepped into the role of Gabby Hernandez on Days of Our Lives, fans weren't quite sure what to expect. After all, Gabby is a character with a long and complicated history on the Peacock soap opera. She's fierce, she's fiery, she's stubborn, and she's never afraid to go after what she wants. But over the past year, Jimenez has managed to make the character entirely her own, winning over skeptics and showing longtime fans that she was more than ready to carry the torch for one of Salem's most dynamic women. Now, Jimenez is revealing one of her personal dreams for Gabby, a dream that has captured the attention of fans who love romance, drama, and of course, the legendary Days of Our Lives tradition of the super couple. A soap tradition, the power of the super couple. For decades, Days of Our Lives has been known for its super couples. Pairs of lovers whose passion, drama, and sometimes star-crossed stories keep audiences hooked. From Beau and Hope, to Patch and Kayla, to John and Marlena, these couples became more than just characters on a show. They became household names and symbols of what soap operas do best, blending romance, heartbreak, and resilience into stories that last for generations. When Soap Hub recently published an article reflecting on the status of Salem's iconic couples, it sparked conversations among fans and actors alike. Jimenez herself chimed in on social media, revealing that one of her goals when she joined Days was to be part of such a pairing. "One of my goals since I joined Days and discovered super couples was to be a part of the show," she wrote with excitement, adding hearts and sparkles to emphasize just how deeply this hope resonated with her. It was a candid, heartfelt admission that quickly caught the eye of longtime viewers. And it left fans wondering. Could Gabby, one of Salem's most complicated women, really find herself in a love story big enough to reach super couple status? Who could be Gabby's match? The fun of soap operas has always been speculating on who might end up together, and Gabby's case is no exception. She's fiery, clever, and sometimes ruthless, which means her partner would need to match her in both strength and passion. Not just any Salem resident could stand toe-to-toe with her. Why not J.J. Devereaux? Although J.J. Devereaux, played by Casey Moss, has a loyal fan following, it seems pretty clear that he isn't the right fit for Gabby. There's nothing wrong with J.J. himself, he's charming in his own way, with his own struggles and redemptive qualities, but chemistry matters. And when it comes to Gabby and J.J., the sparks just aren't there. Their interactions feel more like acquaintances or reluctant allies than the kind of all-consuming fire a super couple needs. Sparks with Xander. On the other hand, Xander Kyriakis, played by Paul Telfer, certainly has the kind of dangerous edge that could make for a fascinating pairing. His rugged persona and tendency to hover between hero and villain match Gabby's own morally gray nature. When they share the screen, there's an undeniable tension, a sense that these two could cause serious trouble together. Still, fans know that Xander has a long and complicated history with Sarah Horton, Lindsay Godfrey. And while their relationship appears to be over, the shadow of Zara still lingers in Salem. For Gabby, hitching her wagon to Xander may not allow her to step into super couple status. At best, it would make for a dramatic fling, at worst, it would leave her in the shadows of an old love story. A promising future with Philip. That brings us to Philip Kyriakis, played by Jean-Paul Lavoisier. If there's one man who seems tailor-made for Gabby's energy, it's Philip. Like her, he's a bit of a troublemaker, someone who thrives on bending the rules while still seeking real love and acceptance. Together, they could form a bond built not on perfection, but on shared flaws and resilience. What makes Philip and Gabby such an intriguing potential couple is their ability to be unapologetically themselves. Neither of them has ever fit neatly into Salem's rigid expectations. They've both made mistakes, both craved power, and both longed for someone who would see past the chaos and love them anyway. That shared understanding could create the kind of combustible, unforgettable romance that defines a super couple. And let's not forget the passion. Jimenez and Lavoisier bring a fiery energy to their scenes. Watching them together, you can almost imagine the sparks turning into a roaring flame that could light up Salem for years to come. Why fans are rooting for Gabby's love story. For longtime viewers, the question of who Gabby ends up with is about more than just pairing characters together. It's about honoring the soap opera tradition of giving complex characters a chance at love, even when they've made mistakes. Gabby has been through heartbreak, betrayal, and loss. She's been the villain at times, the victim at others, and always the survivor.